Good evening. As he said, my name is Randy Howard. I'm the Vice President for Business Development for Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company in the United States, and it's my great honor to provide a little bit of context to this next very distinguished panel. The theme of this year's dialogue is, as you know, a concise three-word summary of exactly what's going on in the world today: provocation, uncertainty, and turbulence. In his 1905 book, The Life of Reason, philosopher, essayist, novelist, and poet George Santayana stated, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And as it did 80 plus years ago, geography was then, as it is today, driving ambitions in both Europe and here in the Indo-Pacific region. But instead of the imperial Japanese, today it's communist China that's causing turbulence by literally building islands for new far forward posts and air bases. And making across the Strait Taiwan its 24th province has been on China's to-do list now since 1949. And along a different front, in a so-called special military action Vladimir Putin started slightly more than 1 year ago, with an unprovoked invasion of neighboring Ukraine, we've witnessed him using all the media that's at his disposal in an effort to invoke a great patriotic war as he seeks to popularize the invasion of the Russian people and to the rest of the world, as we witnessed earlier here today. Just last week, U.S. President Joe Biden made a surprise trip to Kyiv to mark the 1-year anniversary of the start of the war. And the picture to me was very striking. Two presidents standing together in a very clear picture of the resolute commitment of the Western world in support of the Ukrainian people. In addition to taking territory, Putin's aim in Ukraine was to splinter NATOs Resolve. What he got instead was the exact opposite: an alliance that has united stronger and more resolute against a common adversary. And today we see countries aren't just providing the Ukrainian army a minimal token number of mortars, they're almost competing with themselves to provide missiles and tanks and anti-tank missiles and artillery rounds. And the last thing Mr. Putin expected was that fiercely neutral Sweden and Finland would actually apply to join NATO. And so with the US and its allies pouring weapons into Ukraine, the war wages on. And the West seems likely to be left to rebuild the country once that war is over. But more importantly, as we look today, the war in Ukraine is a blueprint as to how wars are likely to be fought going forward. On the battlefield, we see precision fires with a network command and control system backbone, and they have worked as advertised. In the early stages of this war, the Russians were going after specific targets, like the Ukrainian power grid with cruise missiles. And when that didn't have the desired effect, the Russians turned to using their high-tech munitions as terror weapons, hitting hospitals and schools. And for the first time in 2 generations, we see the world facing the specter of the use of nuclear weapons against adversaries. The rise of drone warfare by both sides has been frighteningly fast and become increasingly sophisticated. Once the Western allies started supplying weapons to the Ukrainian army, the results were better than almost anyone initially expected. So we see with the right tools, the Ukrainian army has ferociously defended their homelands and scored impressive victories, as evidenced by the Moskva being at the bottom of the Sea of Azov. Cruise missiles, initially now older, more basic rockets, as Russian inventories have dwindled, are being shot down on a daily basis. Meanwhile, a Russian training site was wiped out with a couple of guided multiple launch rocket systems, a system commonly referred to as Gimlers. But both sides are putting their own spin on the war through traditional media, but also through social media. Ukrainian Twitter feeds are filled with footage of Russian tanks being destroyed, and at the other end of the spectrum, Ukrainian soldiers with their pets as they seek to humanize the fight. And looking back 3 weeks, most of the footage shown of the U.S. shooting down a Chinese reconnaissance balloon near the South Carolina coast came from ordinary citizens, not traditional media. TikTok, a Chinese-owned company, has been banned on official U.S. government and military phones, as the app is rightly seen as an intelligence collection tool. And in traditional military applications, future wars will be fought as much with ones and zeros as with precision-guided munitions. The cyber part of the Joint All-Domain Operations world, or JADO, will not be nice to have, it will be absolutely essential. And so today, the uncertainty of Chinese intentions is forcing the United States to, for the first time since World War II, seriously think about and plan for fighting a war across the Pacific. And any potential future conflict in the Pacific with China will most likely involve and potentially be fought on the home fields of Japan, Australia, Korea, and of course Taiwan. In that future conflict anywhere, the U.S. will need allies. It will obviously include the militaries, but the militaries will need help from industry as well. And so 21st century security goes by many names. That's what Lockheed Martin has labeled it. It will involve these basic tenets. Innovating with urgency. You know, an old fighter pilot adage is speed is life, and that will certainly apply to every weapon system going forward. Delivering and sustaining superior defense platforms. There, Lockheed Martin, as we thought back in the 1990s and developed the F-22 Raptor, the mantra was, we're not interested in a fair fight. Integrating systems and people to enable joint all-domain operations. The ability to relay and share information and apply it in combat scenarios will be absolutely critical in the future fight. Pioneering next-generation systems, and this is very important, at scale. A single miracle weapon might not produce the intended miracle when launched or fired or implemented. We need to produce them at scale. Fielding high-speed, advanced, and secure networks. Leveraging the best of commercial technology. The commercial sector, it moves much faster than most governments and armed forces. Adopting new and innovative business models. Budgets and politics will still be involved, but if there's a better way for us to do something, then it's incumbent upon us to do it. Fostering cross-industry collaboration. Technology development today is so expensive and so time-consuming that if there's as we look to complete a task, we must do so better and cheaper and faster. And if there's a way to do that, we should welcome it. And then accelerating acquisition timelines. As we've seen in Ukraine, what was thought to be a large stockpile of munitions, thought to be sufficient, is being expended at a very, very fast rate. So finally, as we take steps to develop, acquire, produce, and field weapons and technology faster, we have to collectively look at and invest in key technologies like directed energy and hypersonic solutions, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and cyber, autonomy, crewed and uncrewed teaming solutions, and advanced communications. All of these things can and will have to be done collectively as a society. And the discussion of how we will get there, how we make sure that we're prepared for the next conflict, not the last conflict, how we stay ahead of ready, is the reason that we're here today. And so I thank you very much for your attention, and I will turn this back over to the next panel. Thank you.